Hey y'all, it's time for a quick seedling update. We're going to call this weeks 1 and 2. It is the 11th of March. The real feel outside is 93. It's 90. It will be 65 overnight, and tomorrow night we're going down to, I think, 28. Don't you just love the weather in this part of the country? It is so up and down, back and forth. My poor plants. We could lose some hydrangea buds out there and other budding type things, but we'll deal with that in a few days. But this video is all about the seedlings. And I do have one tray of my indoor sown eggplants, peppers, and tomatoes out here getting a little bit of sun. A little bit of time out here today will do them a lot of good because it's actually warmer out here than it is in my house. And I'm so surprised that these violas did so well through this very, very harsh winter. Totally shocked. So I think I might pot up the pincushions and leave them somewhere in part sun to harden off. And then this tray will go back in probably 20 minutes. It's this first day out, so 20 minutes. The sun is partially blocked at this point, so I'm going to let them stay out a little bit longer. You want to take it slow and steady when you're hardening off your plants. These guys have never been out before, and they have broken the surface for many days. And I don't want to burn them because some of them are getting their true leaves, like those little tomatoes. And yeah, but right now they're in part sun to cloudiness. I'm going to give them an extra 5 minutes or so, and then I'll take them back in the house. But I do think I'm going to leave these guys out. I'm going to try to get them ready to be planted soon. So I'm going to put them in some shade. It is Monday, March the 9th. I have just one tray on the heating mat here. And this little container has 3 cups peppers. Went ahead and did a couple extra varieties of jalapeno and then 1 sweet red pepper because I was worried about some of the germination. We'll talk about that soon. But these are all mostly tomatoes and maybe basil. That was like, what, late Thursday night? So not too many days ago. I think I see some basil pop in there in the back though. But the other trays have, well, okay, here's my beautiful black petunia. You know, I love it, right? I've highlighted this plant so many times. But my seedlings are out there getting nice sun. This is their 3rd day out. I'm about ready to bring them back in. And they look really good. Really happy. They're getting some nice, beautiful sun right now. Getting used to the sun early is something I like to do with my seedlings. Not everyone does that. Some people like to wait until a week or 2 before you're ready to plant out. But in my opinion, I make a much stronger seedling if I do it now. So the lights have been on 12 to 16 hours at night. Well, you know, through the day and then in through the night. And then I turn it off in the morning. Let's have a closer look at the plants that are outside today. Now, this tray only has 2 lunchbox peppers. Waiting on germination here as well. And we're back inside, and this tray is farther along. Remember, these were some of the very first tomatoes that I seeded. I believe it was February the 18th. They are ready to get potted up to the next stage. And everything's looking a little dry after being outside for a wee bit. I'm going to bottom water at this point because most of these guys are getting pretty big, especially these tomatoes. They definitely need to be searching down for water, and that is why we're going to switch over now to bottom watering. Just going to put about 1 inch or so of water in here and let all of these guys soak it up. Something else that I do when I bring my seedlings back inside from, you know, after being outside is I like to remove them, and I like to assess and make sure there are no pests in the tray. This takes a little bit of time, but trust me, it's worth it because I have had a problem with ants in my trays before indoors in my house. So I definitely take the time to do that. And in addition, what I need to do is move around some of these individual cups because there's no sense in having a couple that have not germinated yet with the guys who have germinated. So I'll just do some shuffling here and there. Thankfully, everyone has their own tag so that we're not going to get confused as to what is what. There's about 1 inch of water in here. So now we're just going to put the trays back in. This is Black Beauty, Jalapeno M. This is Tasmanian Chocolate, Tomato, Glacier. Not sure if I feel like potting these guys up today, but they could get potted up at this point. This is Pull Big. We've got regular Poblano. And yeah, this is the super spicy cross Poblano, and it has not germinated. But I want to keep them together. I mean, I guess I don't have to. No, I don't have to. I'm not going to do that. I was trying to keep them together, though. I've got some shishitos starting to germinate. Guess they can go in here. Jimmy Nardello, thankfully. Was hoping that I get some germination there. We've got some coleus and Little Prince eggplant. Now I've got spots for 3 cups of germinated plants. I'm going to go get those from outside. Summer Sunset Pepper. So I have 3 empty spots, preferably for something that has germinated. And here's the tray that I seeded. I'll put the date here, approximate. And I noticed that the cherry tomatoes were sprouting first. So I think I'll remove the 2 biggest ones over here. They're so cute. This was chocolate. What is it? Oh, no. Champagne bubbles. And then we've got nectar. Aren't they cute? They're just adorable. And then I got to pick one more. These are still kind of starting to germinate. This one looks a little farther along. This is Rosella. Okay. So we're going to let these guys soak up the water. Let them sit here for about 10 plus minutes to soak up the water. And then if there's any excess water, I'll go ahead and drain it out because we don't want our tomatoes or peppers or eggplants sitting in wet soil. It needs to be moist-ish for a time. I like my soil to dry out with my peppers and eggplants and tomatoes before I have another round of bottom watering. Slightly, not completely. Now, if you're still germinating, you do not want to let your soil dry out. I'll say it again because it's so important. If you are still germinating seeds, and there are a couple, for instance here, still trying to germinate, I'm not going to let the soil dry out. But when you have tomatoes farther along, like these guys, every seed in this cup is germinated. So I can let this dry out just microscopically, just slightly before I water again. Okay. And then we got these guys over here. Still lots of germination happening. So we definitely want to keep this tray nice and moist. Mist with my mister on the top surface level, like we've been doing. And probably at this point, we could leave on our plastic wrap until this evening. Or we could just go ahead and take it off at this point because we've got a lot of germination happening, although it's very, very, very immature at this stage, the germination process. But we're going to keep the surface moist so they can continue to sprout and germinate. I'm going to be very honest and say this part of the process with growing seedlings is frustrating for me because I've got some in different stages and some farther along. You know, these guys are ready to get potted up, these little tomatoes. And then I've got some peppers that are kind of big. Like this one is starting to get his first set of true leaves to pop through the center there, but then there's some still germinating. And that can just be frustrating for some people like myself. I would rather them just all germinate at once and all get potted up at once, but that's not how it happens. The conditions were ideal and the same for every seed in this cup, but we've got some that popped out early, some that are popping out really late, and that's just part of the process. And there's nothing that can be done about it. It's just frustrating. The soil is saturated at this point, and I can feel that a touch in it, and the water is not completely absorbed. So I'm going to just transfer, just slide these guys into a clean tray that I had available. ready and waiting. And that way they do not get waterlogged, because tomatoes do not want to sit in water. They do like to dry out a little bit when they're seedlings and when they're plants in the ground before you water them. You can kill your plants by loving them too much and giving them too much water. And we don't want to cause any dampening off, and that is why I'm not going to let them just sit in this water. Now, we're going to be talking about fertilization in the next video. Probably not this video. This guy still looks really perky and happy. And their first set of leaves that come out of the seed have enough nutrition to get them growing and sprouting. But once they start getting a lot of their true leaves, like this is a true leaf. It's so cute. We need to start thinking about nutrition. But not yet. We can wait. We got time. In fact, I'm going to be potting up these tomatoes that have their first set of tree leaves. And that soil will be potting mix. And it will have some nutrition in it. I have the 2 trays put back in my grow station that we just looked at. But I want you to see. Look at how close. The leaves of these guys are touching the light. And that is too close. Now, this cup here, that's fine. They're about 3 to 4 inches from the light. But these guys are not going to do well that close to the light. These guys, perfect distance. We're going to have to fix these guys. I think I'm going to have to pot them up sooner than I wanted. So what I'll probably do is go ahead and pot up all of the tomatoes that have gotten their first set of true leaves, and then we're going to move them over to that side of the grow station. But first I need to show you this guy. This gorgeous, look at how big he's gotten. He has been in 3 of my videos in the last month, but look at how big he is now. So he's getting more of the proper height. This is a micro dwarf. They get about 6 to 8 inches tall. And here are 3 seeds that I started. They are now seedlings with true leaves. They smell incredible too. We're going to be potting these up as well because they have a place on my green stock. Probably in about 2 weeks, I will put them outside of my green stock. So they just went outside. This whole container just went outside for the first time for about 15 minutes, full sun. And I'm going to let him sit here and drink up this water. We're going to pot these guys up tonight too. So we'll have 3 cherry cola micro dwarfs for our green stock. And then the other tomatoes we'll talk about tonight when we pot those up. All right, 2 days later, I have yet to pot these guys up. I surely will get that done tonight. We got some germination on the tray that was last to be seeded. I believe it was exactly 6 days ago. So let's get these guys inside. I'll have another quicker look at the situation. Here we are indoors, March the 11th. These guys, you can tell, are getting really big. Like, yeah, so he's got his first set of true leaves, but now his second set of true leaves are coming out. So definitely I want to get these guys potted up. A little bit of sun damage, sun scald from being too close to the lights about 3 nights ago, but that should be just fine. He should be able to pull out of that. In fact, he has his second set of true leaves coming out. So we're going to put these guys, this one got a little sunburn too there, see? But he'll be okay. That is Tasmanian chocolate. I'm going to put those off to the side to pot them up later. I just want to show you something. So today, the temperature, the high, 89. The sun is very intense. Tomorrow, we're going to get rain and cool off, and by tomorrow night, we're going to have a possible freeze. It's going to go down that low that quick, which is crazy. But look at that. See that blob there? That discoloration? That is from the sun penetrating this plastic wrap. It's almost like it burnt a hole in it. Wow, it is hot in here too. It is very hot, very steamy. I guess I shouldn't put that on there. So this tray with the 6-cell plug thingies, 6-cell tray container, this whole tray should be enough for all of these guys when I pot them up tonight. I might have a couple extra spaces, maybe, we'll see, but that should be plenty of room. Now for this tray, okay, this is the point where I get frustrated with peppers. I did, so both of these peppers, the Carolina Wonder, the lunchbox pepper on the 18th. That's February the 18th. So far, I've only got 2 lunchbox peppers germinating, none on the Carolina Wonder. Now, these peppers over in this side, I just seeded on Friday, so I'm not worried about them. They can take their time. I'm going to give them a couple weeks. But for those that have not germinated at this point, that were seeded on the 18th, I'm going to start thinking about, do I want to keep space of these trays used in my grow system, or do I want to go ahead and pot up what has germinated and just forget about those that have not germinated, like the Carolina Wonder? That's a hard decision. You got to start making it though, especially me, because I have a very small grow station. And this tray that I just brought in, and I forgot to tell you guys, so I think today in total my trays were out for about 2-ish hours, and they really built up over the last 4 to 5 days. I started off with 20 minutes, then 30 or 40, and then maybe like 40 or 50 and so forth. But today they were out for 2 whole hours. Hopefully they are just fine. I did give them some water before I took them out. And here's another example with the peppers in making hard decisions. So these jalapenos I also seeded the 18th. We've got this one that's starting to put out his first set of true leaves. But then we've got some stragglers here that are just germinating out of the seed. So, yeah. Hard decisions. First set of true leaf here. But overall, things are coming along. I should add that the basils were germinated so quickly. I planted them last Friday, and look at them. They're so cute. I love, love, love baby basils. I think I planted 3 varieties this year. A Romanesco and lime basil and something else. Cinnamon basil. Much later in the evening, we're going to get these guys done tonight. So I've got 4 of the Pobig. These are a determinate, a semi-determinate. There are 3 glacier. An extra seed popped up sometime in the last week. So I've actually got 3 semi-determinate. And then we've got a dwarf, a true dwarf. And there are exactly 12. So this little cup will take up 12 spots in our new trays. And then I've got 3 micro dwarf cherry cola. We're going to pot those up as well. And we're going to get started. The only thing I wanted to mention before I pot up is that I don't think about it too much at this stage, but when I go to transplant into the ground or a container outside, the type of plant, if it's a dwarf, if it's semi-determinate, if it's determinate, I'm going to think more carefully about how deep I'm planting that plant, especially something like a micro dwarf that only gets to be about 6 to 8 inches tall. If I bury it super deep, I am going to lose some of the production and some of the fruits. And you could also kind of apply that theory to larger plants like our semi-determinate. Our determinate, it has a determined amount of fruiting. So if I bury it super duper deep when I go to plant it out, I could lose potentially some possible fruits. So right now, I'm not going to worry about it too much, how deeply I plant, except for the micro dwarf and the true dwarfs. The semi-determinate and the determinate, I am going to bury probably at least 1 inch or so deep, especially this one. He's a little bit big. You can see all of the cotyledon leaves are still nice and green. Those are the first seed leaves that come out. I've noticed in the past from growing my own seeds is that when those cotyledon leaves turn yellow, all of the nutrition that was available from inside that seed and in the first embryonic leaves is gone. So you really need to fertilize at that point, preferably before it gets to that point. But these guys still look really nice and green, healthy. So I'm going to go ahead and get them potted up, and then I will see you again in about a week or so for an update. I'm hoping we have a lot more peppers ready to be potted up and maybe some tomatoes. So I will talk to you soon. I'll put a picture at the end of the finished tray because it might take me a while. Bye, guys.